I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is.
And we're back. Welcome to Mentorship Mondays with Michelle and Maren, where we talk about everything spiritual, consciousness, mediumship, chakras, which is where we were. Why we were missing is we had a wonderful, wonderful weekend with everybody in the chakra class. And so thank you to everybody that came. It was a lot of fun. And Maren and I are already on a roll for the next one, which we'll let you guys know about in a couple of weeks. But so sorry we missed last week with you all, but we had some life stuff going on. How you doing, Maren?
Good, Michelle. I just loved the chakra class. That was so much fun to see everyone and to collaborate and experiment and try new things. And that was just so much fun. So thank you, everyone
It
who
was a
joined.
deep dive.
We truly appreciate you. Yeah, it was a deep dive, wasn't it?
It really was. It really was. Yeah. Yeah. I learned so much. I was laughing because at the end of the class, I was saying to everybody, I was like, or maybe I just said to you, Maren, it was part of it. You know, Maren was teaching us a lot with the chakras, and it really was a deep dive. And I found myself listening because you're so calming, Maren, when you're talking, and your voice is so calming. And for a little while, I kept kind of going into it like, yeah, and Maren would turn and be like, Michelle, what, do you have anything? Yes, I do. But it was awesome. I learned a lot too. So thank you for all your hard work
I
on
know.
the class.
And then I was like, Michelle, I think we need to have a chakras deeper dive class. Like I still have more.
Yeah. No, and guys, we were actually talking about that today. That like Maren and I were just chatting about a few things, and one of the things was we are going to do an even deeper dive, and we won't get into all that now. There's just so much goodness.
Yeah.
We could go in 5 different directions right now. That's what consciousness is. As it expands, we get more creativity, more information, more comes in.
Humongous orb when you said that. Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of what we're talking about today. And no, we have not talked about this previously. All of everything we're talking about today is the original, in the original state. So the reactions and everything are original.
I know, I'm so nervous.
No, don't be nervous. Don't be nervous.
Okay.
No, it's gonna be
okay. All right. So, so the weekend was amazing. It was wonderful. But then unfortunately on Monday, my son got the stomach bug and it was all hands on deck. And, he is just a sweetheart. I just love him so much. He's just so vulnerable when he's sick, and he just wants you to, it's, first of all, let me just say, there's nothing worse than the stomach bug. That is like the worst. Like when you've got the nausea and like, you're like, oh, I don't want to throw up, but I know throwing up's going to make this better. And when am I going to throw up? And like, it's just the worst.
It is.
It's so bad. Yeah. So he like wanted me like right next to him the whole time, but you can't touch him because then that makes it worse, like any movement, like it just is like any sounds, like he couldn't watch TV. He couldn't have the fan on. Like he was like, it just needed to be silent. And then, he was like, Google what would he say? Like, what makes nausea? Like, what can I do to get rid of this? And I'd like to Google, no, you're not asking the right question, Mom. Google, ask this question. And I like Google it a different way. So then we found out, peppermint oil helps with nausea. And actually, no, that was me. That was not him asking. He was like, what foods can I eat to get rid of the nausea? And I'm like, you can't eat anything, but like, sorry. But then with our chakra class and learning about how our whole body is, related, I was like, what body system is related to, I think it's the phrenic nerve is what's related to nausea. And I'm not positive, don't like count me on that. But there's some, nerve system that's connected to the nausea. And so I was like, there's got to be like a acupuncture or aromatherapy or something that I can do to counteract this. Peppermint. It was peppermint. And so sent my husband to the store. I was like, go buy us peppermint oil. get us peppermint oil. So we got our diffuser going with peppermint oil. And he was like, I just love this smell. And I'm like, yeah, it smells like Santa's factory. Like it's literally our whole
Yeah.
house smelled like
Yeah.
a candy cane.
Yeah.
But it was really nice and sweet and good. And he did kind of calm down a little bit with the peppermint. And
That's
then
good.
I found a acupressure point for the nausea. And so if you ever have nausea, you do 3 fingers down and then put your finger
Yeah.
right there. So like right there, and you push firmly. And that is where it's on your wrist, 3 fingers down on your wrist, and then like 4th finger and push in. And that's supposed to get rid of the nausea. And so we kind of were like managing with that. Then we'd get like waves of the nausea back, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, what can I do for you? And he's like, just pray for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? That's right. So then I like brought the angels and like, asked guides to help heal him and surrounded him in white light and did all my, my psychic stuff for him, my spiritual stuff for him. And again, like we kind of had things under control. Things were going good. And then it's funny because, and then he slept through the night, Monday night, everything was great. And then Tuesday, I think he had like a bite of banana and it just like threw him over the edge again. And he was like, you were supposed to be praying for me. Why aren't you praying for me? And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know, like maybe the angels left. It is a new day, like, and so as soon as I literally, and I didn't say that out loud, but I was like, I'm praying. But in my head, I'm thinking, did the angels leave? Like, do you need to call them back daily? Like, what's going on, And the second I thought, did the angels leave? The house did like a huge like thud. And I was like, oh, okay, nope, they're still here. So that was really cool. I got like a validate. They were like,
awesome.
No, we are here. Yeah. It was super cool.
You get a lot of that, don't you? You get a lot of like sounds like doors closing
and flashes and flickers and creaks and cracks and dings. Oh my gosh. And pops. And yes.
I love that.
And they are amazing. So timely too. Like they are so timely. It's crazy. And like that, like, so anyways, so then we kind of managed and then this was a long thing. So then the 3rd day he was feeling much better and we were able to watch a movie and we watched Dune, which was so good, I have to say. This was the last week to watch it on Netflix, so sadly I can't say like go on Netflix and watch it.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I didn't check that out. Oh, okay.
You missed it. I know. Yeah,
I missed it.
You missed it, but it was so relatable. So I feel like throughout my whole journey, like when I was first opening up, my kids were really into Harry Potter. And we were watching Harry Potter and I was like, oh my God, I feel like Harry Potter where I had this normal life. And then all of a sudden I get this letter and I'm invited into this extraordinary world where things you didn't think could happen can happen. You know what I mean? And I like, just the awakening Harry Potter has like mirrored the awakening that I had. And, and then like we watched Avatar and like just about consciousness and like just beings and how there's just seeing higher level thinking in things that aren't humans, and like respecting the planet and everybody has energy and like that kind of mirrored what I was going through at that point when my kids got into Avatar. Well, now there's Dune. And so not to give any I won't give anything away, but the premise is that there's kind of like this noble family that gets put in charge of taking care of this planet. So they're from a different planet and they have to go take care of this one planet. And that's the planet that the movie takes place on. And the dad is more of like a normal human. And the mom is obviously she's like a human, but she has psychic ability. And she comes from a long line where like the women get the psychic ability. And she has a son, and he's the main character. That's Timothy, I'm going to mess up his name, with Timothy Chalamet, or I don't know how you say it. But anyways, he's the main character. And so she passes down and teaches her son the psychic abilities. And then he uses those to like help himself out of all the trouble that they get into on this new planet. And anyways, so it was like, you know, I'm sitting there watching it with my son, who's very open and very psychic, and I'm here having to like, you know, teach him all these things because, you know, they don't teach it anywhere else. And it's like, oh my gosh, again, my life is mirroring this movie that we're watching where, you know, like it's the mom guiding the son. And so I don't know, that was just in and of itself like, wow, like just
That's
so cool.
crazy. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
cool.
But anyways, so my son started, so I watched the movie, he was okay. And then he started getting nauseous again. And I don't know if I was like empowered by the show or what, but I was like, all right, I'm going to jump into act. At first I was like, oh my gosh, and I put my hand on his shoulder, like, oh, I'm so sorry, bud. And he was like, oh, off my, like, I can't be touched. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm like, okay, you know, like previous nights, it's like, we would be up for like 2 hours, like, you know, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. And so I was like, okay, we're going downhill. So I just need to like close my eyes and get some sleep, even if it's for 5 minutes, because I think I'm going to be on all night and I gotta like, you know, get some rest. So, so I like did my deep breathing. And I don't know if this happens to you, but some nights when I always do deep breathing to go to sleep. I always ground myself and surround myself and all that. Some nights, when I do it, my hands heat up. And if they heat up, I know that that's a sign of Reiki, and I'll put them like on my heart and my solar plexus, or sometimes it might be my sacral, depending on where I, you know, how my hands lay. But I always put it on my heart.
Yeah.
Do you do that too?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And so anyways, my hand closest to my son started heating up. And I was literally about ready to put it on my body. And then I was like, wait a minute, because it was only one hand. I was like, wait a minute, this is for my son. And so I asked him, I was like, can I hold your hand? And he said yes, which was like, you know, before I couldn't even touch his shoulder. So he let me hold his hand. Right. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to like send him this energy through his hand. And I like, as soon as I connected with him, I saw this woman in like a nurse's outfit. I just got a ping on my right side. So she's here. Or on my left side, excuse me. But I just, I saw this woman in this white nurse's outfit. And then I just like kind of like put like, get him fresh off the chakra class. I'm going through the chakras. I'm putting chakra colors into his body. And then something, I got a thought, which at first I thought was my own thought, about consciousness. And I don't know if it was from the movie or again, maybe it was someone else. But I just got a thought like about, I need to put my consciousness into him. I was so busy trying to take away nausea and pain and worry. I was trying to take it out and take it away and flush it down. And I just got this thought like, I need to put my healthy consciousness, my calmness into him. And that will help. I know there was like this line in the movie and it was like a life for a life or something like that. And I was like, that's what I need to do. If I'm going to take it out, I need to put something in, right? So like I need to put my consciousness in his body. And I was holding his hand, but then I don't know, instinctually, I moved my hand to like his wrist. And the second I moved my hand to his wrist, I felt this like merge, this like pulse or flow of energy where like I could just feel it going up his body. It was just kind of really wild. Yes. And very present. And I just felt this flow and I could just really feel his like pulse. And like, it was just very kind of avatar-y when they like do the tree thing. I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of wild. And And I did that and I just breathed. And like when I do Reiki, sometimes when I do Reiki and the energy goes through me, and I'll feel like the need to like I do my breathing, but then it's like almost like I need to like dry heave like out energy. Like I don't know if you, I don't know, it's weird. But anyways, but like when I get this feeling of like like I need a release, I'm like, okay, good,
Yeah.
something's happening, you know?
Yeah.
So I did
Yeah.
that and I was breathing and I was like, oh, I need to release, like something's coming out.
Yeah.
And and then and then like even like I was breathing and I heard someone say like breathe slower, and so like I was breathing, started breathing slower, and it was so funny because you know when you're like nauseous and you're just so tense and you're just trying to like
Yes.
find that spot, you know, that's gonna
Yeah.
be the spot where it's a little less intense. He
Yeah.
literally, because he had his knees up in the air, he literally just went like and just completely got soft and relaxed and like
Wow.
melted, like when I started the whole moving the consciousness part. And and then and then he fell asleep. And I was like, okay, but I kept doing it for a while because I didn't want him to wake
Yeah.
up. I didn't know like how long it would
Yeah.
take to, you know. So I was
Yeah.
there for a while. And then I saw this woman, I saw her face. Like before I could only see her uniform, but then I saw her face. And there was something about her that looked otherworldly. She looked like a human, but she just had
Yeah.
more, her eye sockets were bigger. Like she just was different. Like I don't know how to explain it. She just didn't look of this world.
Yeah.
And uh anyways, so I said thank you so much to her, and I was just, you know, like, oh, and I was just like, well, it was just so much gratitude. You know, when you
Yes.
see kids
Yes.
sick, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yes.
And then when you see them
Yeah.
in relief, you're just so grateful. And
Yeah.
so I just sat there in just gratitude, and I didn't want to move. And I was just petting his hand. I just love him so much. And, so I was kind of in that moment for a while, and I just wanted to make sure he was like really asleep. And then there was something in me where I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. I need to write this down so I don't forget it. And also, I feel like I really need to channel about consciousness because I don't think that thought was from me. I think it was from that lady. And I feel like she's still here and I feel like she's ready to teach me what I did. And so
Yeah.
I need to write this down. And
Yeah.
so, but I was like so afraid to wake up Tate. So I waited like for at least 5 minutes for him to like, when this is after I'd already waited some more. So I was like, he was dead asleep by the time I
Yes.
reached for my phone. And he didn't wake up or didn't move or budge or anything when I kind of reached over him to get my phone. And then I was about ready to turn it on. And I was thinking, I wonder where she was from. And literally, this is the part you can't make up. And this is so crazy and creepy and wild and all of the above. My son, so I literally think, I wonder where she was from. My son, dead sleep, points to the sky with his pointer finger, mind you. Like he didn't just go, pointed to the sky for at least 4 seconds. Like it did not move for a while. Pointed to the sky and he said a name and it was really breathy, so it was really hard to hear, but it was like ahem or something like that, like yes, and kept pointing to the sky and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Wow.
And then he put his hand down and kind of rolled over and went like, and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
is that crazy or
How's
is that
that for some
crazy?
validation? No, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, oh my gosh, oh
Yes.
my god.
Yes. And how much did that, him doing that in that moment was so much validation for everything that had been happening, which you had been learning and working through. That's just incredible. So tell me, so you did channel about consciousness. So she did speak
So
through you.
she did. I wrote it in my
Yeah.
phone. I have actually
Great.
not looked at this since
Okay.
that night. So there could be typos. I mean, like, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I might struggle through this.
Give it to us raw. Give it to us raw. That's what we like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It says, everything is energy. Our thoughts are energy. Our consciousness is our thoughts. Everything is malleable. It can be shaped, moved, multiplied, and directed. Okay. I don't know. Though intent. So I don't know if they're trying to say thought intent. Hold on. Let me stumble through this and I can go back and though intent is cosmic wave of energy can carry the intent of consciousness. Okay, hold on. Man, I should have proofread this. Cosmic wave of energy can carry the intent. Okay. Through intent. There we go. Through intent, something cosmic wave of energy can carry the intent of consciousness. So like, that's what I did. And there was like this kind of like cosmic wave in his wrist. And so that is what was carrying the consciousness. And I did that through intent. Okay. So that's kind of what was being said there. At this point, it was just a thought. I am calm. I am healthy. Can you transfer more? Yes. But then I asked her, can you transfer more? So like at this point, all I was able to transfer into him was a thought of, I am calm, I am healthy. And that is what part of my consciousness I gave him.
Yeah.
And so then I said, can I transfer more? And she said, yes, but that is your start. We transfer our conscious unknowingly all our lives. When you spread fear, anger, or positivity with a smile, your intent is to say, have a good day. That is your conscious thought. I am having a good day and I want you to have it too. You are who you're friends with is a term used to describe how we share our resonant frequencies to those we are close to. Yes, that is a term to describe consciousness. All consciousness is related to a frequency because consciousness is tied to emotion. Consciousness is tied to emotion. When doing a reading, that's the first thing you pick up is their resonant frequency. Are they jovial, calm, exuberant, stern, routine? They are pushing their consciousness into your auric field to receive and pick up. To be conscious is to think and feel and know. That is what we call our clairs. And then I kind of asked her if co-regulating was shared consciousness, and she said yes. So, and then I wrote down my experience of me and Tate so that I wouldn't forget it. So, yeah.
It is amazing. That is amazing. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This morning, because I do my meditation connection early in the morning, right? When all is quiet, all is silent in my house. So this morning, I channeled a message. And so interestingly, I mean, it is, speaking of consciousness, coming from a slightly different, well, I'll just read it. I didn't post this. I was like, oh, maybe I'll post this later. I don't know. I'm just going to read this really quick in response to what you just said, because it's just so interesting. Because we're on the same wavelength, Maren.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on. And it's just, it's so fascinating to me because how I understand consciousness is through vibration, through energy. So everything you just channeled and experienced is just, it's such a validation for me. That's great. Okay, let me just see if I can get this up here and I can read it to you. Okay, I have to put my glasses on.
You're fine. While you're reading it, I want to say, yeah, like that was kind of my lens as to like what I channeled about consciousness was because I think I was like, well, how did I do that? And I think I started second guessing like, well, I can't do that. I can't give him my consciousness. I can't like,
right.
I'm just hyped up on Dune. Like, and so I think she tried to simplify it for me. Like, no, you did do that. We do it all day. Like, it's not, It's
Yes.
not as like sci-fi or woo-woo as you think. Like consciousness
Yes.
is a frequency and you can give it
Yes.
and receive it like through intent all day.
Yes.
So,
Because that is the key, is the intent. That is the key
yeah,
right there, is the intent. And so think about before this knowledge, prior to the awakening. So as I say this, I look back into the time of my life when I would second guess and doubt everything that I was doing and had no
yeah,
direction or understanding. So was I being affected by other consciousness, vibration, thought, intention? Yes, because I didn't understand my own. And so I was weaving in and out of everybody else's. But when we have awareness and purposeful intention, then we are able to direct that, to be able to grow, to change, to evolve. So um I love it when everything comes together, right? This is me geeking out officially on synchronicities right now. I am completely geeking out. Okay. Inner strength, confidence, is built brick by brick from the smallest of thoughts and actions. The world outside of you may question, assume, or even laugh at what may look insignificant or even crazy to them. Inner strength is never built from the outside in, you see. It is built from the consistent, intentional action taken within one's own thoughts and purposeful movement of energy over time or briefly in alignment with one's goals. Taking small steps of intentional thought and action that aligns with your heart, your truth, builds an undeniably strong will that helps you overcome the hurdles and adversity along the way. Never discount the small steps that no one sees but you. You are building a universe within. You are not running out of time, as the very best is now about to begin. And so, what I take from that, coming through inner strength, is vibrational solidity. Vibrational solidity is consciousness, is the expansion of consciousness. And so what you did was you took your intention and your awareness of connection and used your strength and power that you have built through momentum of continuously working with your own energy. And you were able to help your son not only release, but you were able to help instill his consciousness because he's an open receiver to you. You were able to affect his consciousness and expand that, and beyond, I think, what even we can understand is taking place, because there's so much more to it that is happening. And meaning, I'm getting what he's being prepared for as he grows happens in these moments. So even though we think these small moments, so what's coming right now is somebody thinking, well, will my prayer help this? Or will my, I'm not, maybe not seeing the results of what I'm doing? Or will the thoughts of continuously thinking positively or putting my energy into something, is it going to make my relationship better? It's that energy is affecting others, that consciousness is affecting others. And when you put positive intent towards it, when you use your awareness, it does something, because we are all connected. Am I making sense of all this, or is my
yeah.
geeking out taking over my ability to ground this information?
No, I'm just having so many like pictures and like connections to my own life as you're talking. So
Yeah.
I'm probably a bad listener because I'm just taking it and
No,
hoarding it.
it's just, it's deep though, right? But the bottom line is, our consciousness is absolutely amazing. It is,
Yeah.
and when we allow ourselves to go into these places of the unknown, it is not sci-fi. It is not weird. It is not, and do we have expanded consciousness that works with us? Well, we are part of it as well. That's why they can. That's why
Yeah.
you would have an experience of uh, another being, and I get that that was we could call her a star being, but is another version of a human being, but it is a star being. I don't even know if what I'm saying right here makes sense, but I feel that that's a family member, uh, another being that your expanded consciousness knows, basically, which is
Yeah.
what the star beings are. I don't even know if I'm making sense anymore because there's so much popping off in my head right now. This happens
um,
sometimes.
yes, I definitely felt some connection to her. So then this got me thinking about, and you're talking about this like expanded consciousness, right? And it definitely got me thinking about our chakras, because we've kind of talked about how they are in line with our development, and we start, with developing our root chakra and then on and on and on. And we know that our crown chakra is kind of like our connection to the beyond and that oneness point. And so, like, as you grow through your chakras, I feel like you also expand your consciousness. So then it kind of got me on this
Yes.
like
Yeah.
research train, like, what does science define as consciousness? What amount of consciousness are you born with? And then, can it expand? And so I always think like this is a thought I had like years ago, and I still have it because I struggle with being cold a lot. And I always like, it just like perplexes me that like kids can go outside and they like do not feel the cold. They
Hmm.
just play and play and play and they don't feel the cold. And I think about like, or even like our childhood experiences and how they're just like, when we think about them, sometimes they can seem so distant or like one dimensional, and
Yeah.
compared to like what we're going through now. And I feel like it's kind of like that expanding of consciousness. Like kids in the cold, they don't have consciousness or cold, or even like emotions. This one gets me, like when something happens to a kid but they don't have the emotions to like the emotional knowledge or vocabulary to like explain it. They're like, oh, I didn't like that. And that's kind of where they're at. But then as an adult, like you can process things and you can be like, wow, that really perturbed me and that made me feel uncomfortable and that made me feel like unsecure and that made me feel, you know what I mean? Like you have more
Yeah.
emotional vocabulary to like
Yes. Yes.
bring your experience more life and more depth and more, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, is that
Mhm.
kind of expanded consciousness? Or is that just expanded knowledge? Or
Well, it because there's different types of, like, if we say what is consciousness, well, there is informational consciousness, so consciousness of the mind, consciousness
so
of the emotional body, right? Like we have
so that's what
four bodies.
science, yes. So science defines consciousness as and I feel like this goes with the way that I was channeled it. I think, I feel, I know is what they say
Mhm.
consciousness is. To be conscious is to think,
Mhm.
to feel, to know. And then uh science says consciousness is to
Yes.
perceive stimuli and to know that you are perceiving that
Mhm.
stimuli
Mhm.
is consciousness. And and so I'm like, yeah, to think, to feel, to know. And then they say like that relates to the clairs. And I'm like, oh yeah, because you feel proprioceptively, and our chakras are these energy centers that are feeling as well. But then you
Mhm.
know things. Like I just feel like it is really related, but to think, to feel, to know.
Yes.
And there are situations where kids like might feel but not know, right?
That's right.
Like
That's right. And so how do you, so now if we define, so we could say current awareness as well. So where is awareness? Because consciousness can also be described as awareness, right? So it's the meaning that we're putting to it. So we're using
Right.
a word that can have different aspects, and some of the aspects can overlap each other as well. But then if we go into expanded consciousness, so a child may have the feeling and not the awareness to what the feeling is, but through experience, so through the experience of interaction or the experience of understanding, can grow the awareness to what that say emotion is, or why that emotion is
Yeah.
there. And that's why the life experience and learning is important. And then there is the actualization of the mental learning, the learning from memory, the learning from what's being given to us. There's also this part of expanded consciousness that starts to go out into greater understanding, which is the non-physical. And this is where,
Mm-hmm.
as human beings, there has always been such a division in understanding expanded consciousness, because again, it's the meaning that's being put to it. Are we speaking of expanded consciousness with what science can prove, or
Yeah.
does one stop learning or understanding because they put a barrier on, a lid on how far that can expand based on, well, that's not everybody else's experience, it's not what science has learned. But no one person has all of that information. But when we take that lid off of the understanding, then we start to get into expanded consciousness, which is also vibrational growth, which is also being willing to
Mm.
use the intention to expand that experience. And you cannot tell somebody or expect them to believe what the experience of expanded consciousness towards the non-physical is when they have a current awareness to their experiences, and they may be more heavily, whether we want to call it programmed or through life or through their understanding, they may be more heavily in the mental space. So if somebody believes in religion and their logic mind is what uh, is their say main program, they're not going to understand consciousness in a way that maybe I'm explaining it. But it doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that it's that person's experience. But consciousness
Mm-hmm.
has no limit to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think, do they say our thoughts are energy, our consciousness is our thoughts? Okay. So, like, yeah, consciousness is energy, energy is thoughts, and that's how you expand or
Mm-hmm.
send out your consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think when you talk about, I feel like science is saying the same thing, just in different
In
ways,
different,
and they just,
yes.
yeah, and they just maybe don't have the tools to measure it as much, but um,
Yeah.
it is
But
something
it's
that,
clearly existed, because how could there be so many people around the world experiencing higher, more expanded experiences past the
yeah,
measured senses? How can
yeah,
that all be wrong? Right? So we know
yeah,
that that exists. We just don't have the measurements at the current time to be able to fully, understand that, which is why you can't prove to somebody whose consciousness is in a place where, no, that doesn't exist. It's not part of my reality. It doesn't exist. There's nothing you can really do to prove to that person, because that person has to be able to experience, has to have the thought and the intention to put into the experience to start to build that, right?
yes, that makes sense. The feel, like the think, the feel, the know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do we go about raising our consciousness? Sounds like there you're saying some people choose not to, right? They choose not to do the experience or the perceiving, the feeling. So they're not expanding their consciousness. How do we expand our consciousness if we want to do that?
Well, to expand is to be aware of where you're at to begin with, right?
Hmm.
So, taking stock of what do I believe right now and why do I believe it? What do I feel right now and why do I feel it? What is my experience currently? Because we can't jump to a place where we think we want to be if we don't have the awareness of where we are, right?
Makes sense.
So, so by taking stock of where we think and feel that we are in this moment, and then taking the thought of what if. So, what's the intention of what do I want to grow in the first place? Where is my interest to grow? Because to expand your consciousness, you have to have an intention, a desire. So if I desire to expand my awareness in spiritual communication, then where is that right now? What's my belief about that right now? What's my belief about myself
Right.
right now, and how do I fit to that?
Yeah.
Where have I obtained these beliefs?
Yeah.
Right? Where did these come into my life? So it's really starting to examine yourself. And so again, it's all language and you know, how we understand ourselves. We all are really doing the same kinds of things with different languages, right? So,
Well, it's funny that you say that because I was just
mhm,
thinking, oh, you really need to be open-minded. And then I'm like, oh, that's probably another word for like wanting to expand your consciousness. There's closed-minded, which means you're
yes,
not willing to perceive. And then there's
yes,
open-minded means I'm open and receptive and willing to perceive,
yeah,
to expand. Very interesting.
exactly, exactly. And so really it's willingness. What's my will? So that brings me back to that little piece that I read. My will must be strong to be able to go through the adversities because expanding consciousness is not a straight arrow. It is a expanded consciousness, raising light, raising vibration, opening up. We could use all of these different terms to understand it. But to have the will is to be able to work with my current thoughts and beliefs. Again, the things that nobody else sees and may not be completely logical, but I feel that I need to go into this direction. I'm working on expanding my thoughts where my thoughts want to close down and say, no, that's not true. No, that can't be. What if I expand my thoughts? So by doing these things, you're building a foundation. You're building a foundation to help support the will, because when the will of growing is strong, it will help carry you through. That's inner confidence, that's strength to help carry you through these periods that go up and down, which is the adversity of other people in your life. People that
Yeah.
may say, what do you think you're doing? You think that those thoughts are thinking positively on this or changing that? Do you think that's actually going to do something? Okay, well, we'll see you in 5 years and see how that works out for you. But if you work on that yourself and you continue to put those teeny little pieces together with my thoughts, and I keep going in this direction, then eventually it's going to start to build a strength within you where your will is going to keep overcoming all of those things, all of those darts and things that get shot out to you. You're going to be able to block them left and right and continue to grow your consciousness to where you will understand and connect to more oneness and to see that everybody is going to believe where they are, and some people will stomp their feet and hold tight in where they are, because expanding the consciousness may just be something that feels too scary or doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to them. But
Yeah.
building that will within you is what gives you the strength to continue on. And that's why when you start to expand, there is no turning back, because you just can't. Once you start to grow, it's like looking back at kindergarten and how you did things, and you're not judging it because you're like, oh my God, I was this beautiful little child that was just learning how to understand all these things and learning about the me and how do I relate with the world. Well, I'm not going to say, oh, that child is stupid. No, of course not. A child is intelligent and loving and warm and learning. And so I'm going to look at each stage of my growth as that child, and loving and watching that child continue to grow. And that's how we understand when we get into the oneness, we look at others at where their consciousness is at, and it's not bad or wrong or anything. It's part of the growth and the learning, and to come from a place of oneness, that is what the consciousness expansion does for us, which we could also call being in 5D, because it also goes down to dimensional, right? So when you were talking about one-dimensional, two-dimensional, about the child and where the thinking is,
Yeah.
we get into a fifth dimensional consciousness. It's seeing things from all and realizing that there is no bad or good. It is, what experience will it take to blow a person out of their box of openness, consciousness, whatever we want to call it.
So I'm stuck on chakras here. I've got chakras on the brain. So what it made me think of is like the lower chakras, because you kept saying they might be afraid. And then you kept saying about having that inner will. And so like that root chakra is the safety, the security, and the solar plexus is that inner will. And it sounds like those need to be really strong and really developed, so that then you get the upper chakra expansiveness, right? Because the third eye is about seeing the big picture. The crown is about the wholeness and the oneness. And those just seem so expansive, right? And so I feel like maybe the key to expanding your consciousness, just like you said, when you were like, well, check and see where you are, is to get those chakras in the lower chakras strong, so that you can have this abundance
Yes.
of expansion
Yes.
um,
Yes.
up top.
And that is exactly, like, I'm so glad that you wrapped it around and brought it into the chakras in that way, because if I were to explain my own journey, I was always very open in the upper chakras, the creativity in the openness, like the connection. So
Mm-hmm.
always, and I do naturally float around up here a lot. So that's why grounding is so important for me, right? But I had to work very hard on the lower chakras, because my experiences through life was always in denial of those areas. So I had to work very hard to continue to keep those in balance. But when we work on our system, on our chakras, especially when we're retraining, we're continuously, and as I'm saying this, I see years of my cleaning them and refining them and helping them all flow in the right direction so that they would start to flow on their own, because
Mm-hmm.
my beliefs and my thinking about myself and how I relate to the world and how I was disconnected from life.
Mm-hmm.
I was disconnected from the lower chakras, my safety, my security, because I was living in the versions of what other people thought of me and thinking that was me, but it wasn't. So that lower development is so important
Mm-hmm.
to the balance of up here. So that's just a little epiphany that came in, because they were showing me how unbalanced or out of balance that was for me for a very long time, which of course I got very sick, because all of those, and it makes sense because it all connects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Good topic. I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Deep.
and
Now
yeah,
that's some deep diving.
yes. So to think, to feel, to know. So yeah, reach your tentacles out, think, feel, know,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
connect to your lower chakras, and
Mhm.
not just visualizing cleaning them, but like doing the work. Like what do you feel you have areas? Is it your safety? Is it your self-love, your creativity? Is it your self-will um and your inner strength? Like what is it that you feel like you need to um improve upon to
That's right.
then reach out? I love that.
Yep.
And not doubt. I think there was like a big thing you said about doubting, and like that's what I
Yes.
did. Like I could have summed all that up to just like, oh, I'm just too into that Dune movie, but I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to channel. I'm going to like figure
Yeah.
out why this
Yes.
worked for me and why this
Yes.
worked and how this happened. And so
Yep.
I reached for that knowledge, right?
Yes.
And so hopefully I've expanded consciousness from it.
Well, you definitely have, and I think everybody watching this has.
But
You know, and
no,
and
yes, is your
that's the
information.
beautiful thing. It is, and it's the beautiful thing about growth is that it comes from everything.
Mm-hmm.
So intelligence is comes in so many different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really beautiful to be able to see how our experiences in life help support the growth that we need. But again, we have to be in a place where we'll allow that, we'll be open to that. So judgment, judgment on the self-doubt, self-judgment, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to feel that there's something more to whatever you're doing if you don't know what direction that is, but to be able to be open to receiving more information is how it's the openness, it's the be willing to not say no, be willing to hold that ceiling as continuously moving. And I think one of the biggest eye openers for me is things that I may have thought or judged 10 years ago makes so much sense now. So
Yeah,
who are we to judge? Who are we
that's
to
right.
judge another?
Yes, that's right. That's what happens with expanded consciousness. And that's why, like, yeah, you go through junior high and you're like so upset with who you are. And then you're an adult and you look back at your junior high self and you're like, you were just so cute. Like, you were
Yes.
so perfect in every
Yep.
way. Like, you just
Yes.
needed to. Yes, it's that
Yeah.
expanded consciousness. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Good
Um,
topic, Maren. Good topic. This
yes.
is good.
I have to tell you a cute little add-on story. So then I was sitting there kind of like um, trying not to move for a while before I grabbed my phone, make sure my son was really asleep. And
Yeah.
I was like, how cool was that earlier that I said, I wonder if the angels are still here. And then, or I doubted whether the angels were still there. And then the house popped. I was like, that was so cool. And then all of a sudden the house goes pop. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're still here.
I love that. I love that. Everybody ask if the angels are on your roof and see what happens. I'm going to do that. I'm going to ask for the angels to show me that they're on around our house audibly so I can hear that today.
They're always
It's my
there.
project. Yeah, they
Yep.
are always there. They are.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Maren. That was a great channel. That was a great channeling. Thank
Thanks,
you for sharing that with
Michelle.
us.
Oh, thank you for talking about it with me and listening to my story. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening to
Always.
it. And yeah, if you have any insight on consciousness, we'd love to hear it because it's obviously an expansive topic. It's consciousness is everything.
Yeah,
And,
and ever growing.
I think science is now proving that everything is conscious as well. Like they did that experiment with the particles. Did you hear about this? They did that
Yeah,
experiment with
something
the
about yeah.
particles.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when they weren't being filmed, somehow they set it up so they didn't know that they were being filmed and they were random. But then the second you had a perceiver, they like shifted into like line, which then
Mhm.
states that, okay, these particles of energy are conscious because they're moving based
Yes.
on whether or not they're being perceived. And so that blows your mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything is conscious, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even rocks.
Good topic. And
Yeah.
as a little bonus thought, now just think of how manifestation works with that, how we bring things into reality. So let that one
Yeah.
ponder a little bit, and maybe next time we can go into a little deep dive of that and how that works with our energy and our conscious thoughts, because it's all connected. It's all
Yeah.
connected. Yeah.
It is. It also makes me think, sorry, we're just going to drag this conversation out.
Yeah.
So, so like the resonant frequency, right, is like the consciousness of a person is their resonant frequency. And they do say that it is contagious, right? Because you're always sending out and you're always receiving.
Yes.
So if you, like they say, like if your boss is stressed, you'll be stressed because they're sending out their stress frequency and you're receiving it. Same with for a child. If your parent is stressed, the child will become stressed. But same with like angry, disgruntled, resentful. How much resentment is in workplaces? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it goes out and then people receive it. So being very mindful of the energy that you put out or the people that you're with, like, oh, I don't really like so-and-so, but like we hang out. Well, you are who you're friends with. It is contagious because you're always sending and receiving. So being mindful of who you're around, I think is really important.
It is. So. It really is. And that's a tough one too, because that takes a lot of practice to work through that stuff. But but it's very true. Very true. So on that note, I guess we've kind of, I mean, I could go on for another hour talking about this.
Okay, I could do it.
You got another one.
Because I just heard that, not to leave it on a negative note, but I just heard, but remember a smile can change the frequency. A smile is consciousness. So you do have tools to change that situation. So.
And that is true. And think about when people say, but how do I get through this? When I go into work, it is such a heavy place. It is so heavy, and I don't want to go back there. But remember that the pattern of heaviness or the pattern of lower vibrational consciousness has had its way for a very long time, and it's much easier to be in that pattern than to break out of it. So think of when you're changing patterns, when you're starting anything, it takes more effort. So does it take more effort to put on that smile when everything's heavier around you? Yeah, it does, and it can be. But the more you do that, the more you practice in that, you practice the resistance of not accepting the energy, which is being more aware. The resistance of not accepting it, and a smile really can change things. And I could tell you a million stories about my teenager walking out of her bedroom and starting a day on a note that's or on a different note. And it makes a really big difference when you change the view of, oh no, she's angry this morning, to good morning, how are you? And if you get a back, you just love it anyway and keep on going.
That's right.
And it does eventually change. So there's all my note for all you moms and dads out there that are dealing with teenagers.
And yeah.
So, well, thanks, Maren.
Well, thanks you.
Everybody.
We'll see you next week. And
same bat time, same bat channel.
That's
Bye, everybody.
Right. Bye.
Bye.